Hi, welcome to Caribou Country Lifestyle. My name is Cheryl, and today we are going to be planting my tomatoes. I have 21 varieties of tomatoes, and I'm doing two of each variety. So I'm starting off with my indeterminate varieties out here in my raised garden beds. And what that means is for an indeterminate variety is I'm going to use these cattle panels to tie my tomatoes up as they grow, because with an indeterminate variety, it grows to an indeterminate height. We don't know how high it's going to grow. Now, when I plant these in the ground, I'm going to be digging a fairly deep hole, and I'm going to be sinking the plant down to the first set of leaves. And it's going to take a few weeks for it to grow back up to the point where it's high enough that I can start tying it to this cattle panel. My varieties that I'm growing on this cattle panel, I have Amish paste. I've grown these the last 2 years, but I grew them over on that cattle panel over there, and they did not like that spot. So I did it 2 years in a row. You think I would have learned my lesson. This year, I am not putting them over there. I'm going to put them on this cattle panel and see how they do. My other two varieties that I'm putting on this side is going to be my yellow pear. They are a small cherry tomato that is in the shape of a pear, and they are yellow, hence the name. So let's get started. I'm going to dig my holes. I've got a bucket of compost that I'm going to be putting in, a shovel full of compost into each hole that I'm going to be putting the tomatoes in. So let's get started. I'm going to start down at this end, putting in the Amish paste. I'm just going to grab my shovel. And like I say, I'm going to dig down fairly deep. I have this cute little shovel that I got as a Mother's Day gift. So I've dug down, and if I sink this down, it's definitely going to be to the first set of leaves. I'm going to grab a scoop of compost and put that in. So I'll dump that in. Take my tomato plant out. I'm just going to squish the bottom of it to get it out. And I'm going to plant that down as deep as I can get it. Bring my soil in around it. And on all of these beds, I added 2 inches of compost on each bed. Okay. And I like to make a little well towards to kind of have it so it's sloped down towards the plant. And that just, when I'm watering, that water will sit in this little well and it'll soak on and focus. The water will get to the roots of the tomato plant. So there's one. And I'm spacing these out to about 18 inches apart. Now, when you look at the back of your seed packet, it will actually tell you to space them out further distance than that. But because I'm staking these up onto the panel, I can have them closer. I'll grab my shovel of compost, dump that in. Make some room for my plant. I'm going to put my tag in between the two. So then I know that these two are the Amish paste. So I only need one tag. I'm going to sink this down. And I'll just fill it in with this dirt. Right up to the bottom, and then I'll just make my little well. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do my yellow pear. And even though it's a cherry tomato, it can still be classed as an indeterminate. I only have a couple of varieties of cherry tomatoes that are not indeterminate, and those ones I'm actually putting in hanging baskets. Get my scoop of compost. And then once I plant these, then I'm definitely going to go and put some water and water them all. Because even though these have been watered, like last night I went and watered all of my plants when I was hardening them off, it doesn't mean that, you know, I'll still water the ground, give them plenty of water. Okay, put my tag in the middle, and then I'll plant my other yellow pear. And I still have some room here on the end that I can plunk in some flowers, maybe some marigolds, nice pest deterrent flower. Okay, get my compost. Pop out my plant. Squeezing it on the bottom, you can tap it, it kind of just, and look at that root system. Like it's done quite well. And then once I put it into the ground, that's going to focus on those roots. Again, I had to get them out of the house because the plants were getting so tall that my LED lights, they were getting too close to the LED lights, and I was noticing that there was some burning on the plants from having them so close to the LED lights. So I had to get them out and implanted, which is perfect because yesterday was our last estimated frost date. Okay, let's move on to the next bed that I'm putting in on this bed. Our Carnival blend, which is family of the Brandywine family, just another type of a Brandywine. And then I actually have Brandywine variety on these other two. So that's what I'm going to be planting on this panel. Again, these are just all indeterminate tomatoes. Just getting some of these weeds out of here. Okay, we'll start with the Brandywine at this end. Get a scoop of some compost. Take out my tag. make my little well in the dirt around the plant. Put my tag in here in between them. And we'll dig out this one. Dig a hole for this next Brandywine. On the other side of this panel, I have planted some rutabagas because I have them planted fairly close to my hickory salad turnip and my watermelon radish, because in no time I'm going to be pulling those out of the ground, and then my rutabagas will have more room. Oops, almost forgot my compost. Huh. Can't forget that. Okay. Anyways, those radishes and the hickory salad turnip are going to be coming out, and that'll make room for the rutabagas to grow, and it won't be crowded. It seems crowded right now that I planted them, but that won't last long. Okay, that's those two planted. And now for the carnival blend. And the Brandywine and the Carnival blend, they are more of a slicer tomato, so good for sandwiches, canning, pretty much anything that you would normally do with a tomato, you could do with any of these. But they are great for having a toasted tomato sandwich. They are a big slicer. Get my compost before I forget. Might be a little too deep. There we go. Now just put that dirt right up to the, it looks so puny now compared to what it was when it was in the pot. So we'll just make a little well, and it'll take no time at all before it's getting up to this cattle panel, and then we're having to tie and stake it up. Now I'll get this other one. I'll keep this tag out, and I'll just have the one tag in here. Get my hole. Bit of compost. Pop my plant out. And then just push the soil back in. If you notice that there's clumps, easy enough to break them up. Get as much of the dirt. Oh, I'm covering up my little tag. I'll put as much dirt as I can around it, as close up. And then I'll just make my little well for it. Okay, that's not taking long at all. I've already got eight tomato plants planted. My next set of 4 tomato plants, this is a new variety that I'm doing. My sister gave me these seeds. It's the black Krim. I've heard lots of good things about black Krim, so I've been wanting to try it. And then beside the black Krim, I have my Aunt Ruby German green. And the black Krim is another type of a slicer, and the Aunt Ruby's German green is a big tomato as well, so it could be as a slicer also. And I've got a watch here because this is where I planted my new row of, I just remembered that, of my baby bok choy, the Chinese toy choy. So I'm just going to move this over slightly from that. I can have it close, but I don't want it too close. And I'll have tomatoes on this side, and then I'll have a different vegetable over on the other side. I'm not exactly sure what vegetable I'm growing on the other side. I'd have to check my paper that I have everything all mapped out on. Grab my scoop of compost. And I'll plant my black Krim. My sister, this is her second year with the black Krim. She really liked this tomato, so I'm excited to try it. Get as much of my dirt right up to the bottom, and then I'll just make my little well around it. Put my tag in the center. And then at the other end, I dug up, not dug up, but I picked all of my Chinese toy choy, the baby bok choy. And last night I picked it all, cleaned it all up, so I have it in bags in my fridge. And we'll be having that for dinner one night this week. Lots of roots on this one. It looks very nice. Oh, compost. Got these like flies landing on me, and it's driving me crazy. I don't like it when bugs land on me because I never know if it's just a fly or if it's a horse fly and it's going to take a chunk out of my skin, because those horse flies are brutal. Okay, just make my little well. Yeah, the tips of these are yellow and kind of crispy, and that was from my LED lights. Okay, now we're going to do the Aunt Ruby's German green. I grew these last year. I can't remember if this was the one that I had some issues with, as far as I kept beating the poor plant up. So I can't remember how well it did. Okay. Pop this tag in the center. I found that all of my tomato plants did quite well. Starting them in the house. They weren't leggy, really nice tomato plants this year, so I would definitely start them the same time that I started these. I would start them again at that same time for next season. I'll have to make sure I make a note of that. And it's good to keep track of those type of things. Okay, and the last German green. And this was where my row of the Chinese toy choy was. I left 3 Chinese toy choy plants in here. They weren't very big, so I'm just letting them get a little bit bigger. And then I can grow something else in this row, maybe some lettuce or some spinach. Oh, get my compost. My puppy's laying in the shade. Good idea. It's pretty warm out here. I mean, that reminds me, I'm going to have to set up my thermometer out. It's kind of like a rain gauge / thermometer all in one. I'm going to have to bring that out and set that up so I know how hot it really is. Because it seems hot today. pretty nice. Okay, got those planted. Let's move on to the next one, because I have an onion plant kind of in the side here. And then in front of it, I have carrots that I'm growing in front. And I'm going to plant these tomatoes kind of in between the carrots and this panel so that they will climb up the panel, and I'll stake them up the panel, but they won't be infringing on the carrots or the onions. These onions are actually producing little flower bulbs on them. These onions I left in the ground over winter, and they have come back, and they actually have quite pretty flowers on them, and I'm just letting it go to seed, and I can collect those seeds off of these plants. So here I have New Girl. It is a variety that I planted last year, and I was really happy with the outcome of them. I used them mostly for canning, and my sister actually said she wasn't a big fan of them for eating. I'm gonna have to try it and see, put them into a sandwich and see what they're like. Beside those, I'm doing the Indigo Rose. The Indigo Rose is a cherry tomato as well, but it's a black, very dark black cherry tomato. And once it starts ripening, you lift up the bottom, and if you notice that there's red developing on the bottom of the cherry tomato, then it's ripe to pick to eat. So my sister gave me some seeds for this. I've never grown this before, so excited to try this one as well. But it's just a cherry tomato, and the New Girl is just your average red, average sized tomato, a medium sized tomato. So I have to be very careful of where I'm digging here, because I've got plants all around it. In behind I have beets on the other side of this panel. So I'm trying not to get anything. It's kind of a touchy spot here. I'm just going to throw a little compost in the bottom. Take my tag out. Push this down into the hole and just push this dirt back up around it. All I smell is onion. Okay, and I'll put my tag in between here, and then I'll dig this next one. I'm trying to put dirt on both sides of the hole. Put a little scoop of compost. I get out here and I start working, and the next thing you know, my nose is running. We sure have a lot of pine cones in this compost. I don't know how we ended up with so many pine cones. It's like we're growing pine cones in our compost. Okay. Digging a hole. Paying attention. It's funny how you get so sidetracked and squirrel qualities. So yeah, I put a box of Kleenex in my garden shed, which was absolutely genius because yeah, I always get out here and I start doing work, and then I'm doing a video, and all I'm doing is sniffling the whole time. So I put that box of Kleenex out, and I forgot that I had did that, so took care of that. It should be good now for a while. Okay, I'll put this tag in here for the indigo rose. And then I will get my hole. Got more room at this end. I don't have a big onion plant in my way. Okay, this one's a really nice stocky tomato plant. Turned out really nice. Push that down. Push all this dirt back around it. Try not to disturb my carrots that I've got planted in front of it. I'll just make a well. This one, these leaves are quite dark as opposed to that one. And they're both the indigo rose tomatoes. I don't have a panel up as of yet. We've got the T-posts put in. We will be putting a panel up here. I am growing this in amongst my garlic in this bed, and that's totally okay. So these varieties, this is the old German. The other one was an Aunt Ruby's German green, and this one is the old German. And it is actually a yellow tomato with red kind of in it. There's like red streaks in it. It's quite a cool tomato, really great tasting tomato. Made a few tomato sandwiches with this one. I really liked it, so I'm glad to be planting this one in the garden again this year. So we will be adding a panel. We do have a panel. We just have to, it's a 16-foot panel, so we're going to cut it in half. And half of it will go up here to be able to stake our tomatoes to it. I'm going to stick my tag in here. Getting ahead of myself. Didn't put my compost in. There we go. Now I'll put my tomato plant in here and just push this dirt back into the hole. This dirt is actually quite wet. I was in here watering yesterday afternoon because I worked during the day and then I had a massage appointment, so I didn't get home until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like, well, better to water it than not at all. Better late than never. So, well, I've got a garlic plant right in the middle here. So I'm kind of planting this stuff around garlic plants. I wasn't going to plant tomatoes in here, but with the amount of garlic that I got this year, which was not as much as I was anticipating, I had planted 62 cloves of garlic in here and I only ended up getting 14 plants. So wasn't very happy about the outcome of that. But I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. I'm going to push that down, and then I'm just going to push this dirt back in around the tomato plant and make my little well in it. And then this other variety that I have going in on this side of it is the Cherokee Purple. This is another variety that I got seeds from my sister for it, and I've heard really good things about Cherokee Purple. I actually went to a Gardeners Club meeting this last week, and even she said she absolutely loves the Cherokee Purple. It is one of her favorites to grow. So I was like, oh, I'm excited because I got those. Thank you to my sister. Need some compost. And this gal, she saves seeds from her tomato plants. She was a gal that grows vegetables 365 days of the year. She has a root cellar that is 8 feet by 16 feet. I was like, oh, I wish I had a root cellar. It would be something that is definitely would be on my list of something I would like to get in the near future. But we'll just have to wait, you never know. Okay, I've got one more. This one's getting planted quite close together. I think I'm only giving it like 12 inches, but that's what I have. That's the space I have, so that's what I'm doing. Oh, just a sec. I have a hole in this dirt. Not that I have a hole in the dirt, but I think there was some caving in from a previous hole. So I'm just going to, had to fill that part there. And I'll plant this now, push it down in the hole and just gather this dirt back around here. Okay. And like I say, it's going to take a little bit for this plant to get up to a couple of weeks or so to get up to the point where we would stake it up to the panel anyways. So it's not going to be a big deal that there's no panel here as of yet, but we will be getting it in. My plan here was not to plant tomato plants on this archway, but because I have so many indeterminate varieties, I have just ran out of room, and I've just decided, I am going to plant some. I don't have as much space because instead of having the panel being staked going this way, I have the panel being staked and it's only 4 feet across, so I'm only able to put 3 plants across the bottom. And in this one, I am doing 2 natural black cherry tomato plants. I planted these last year, and my plants were just covered in cherry tomatoes. And these have like kind of a blacky greenish hue to them with a little bit of red in it. Like there's hardly any red in it, but I love them. They're a really nice tomato. And then on this side, I'm doing 1 ox heart. And the ox heart tomato, it is a paste tomato. It's a very meaty tomato, but they're in the shape of a heart. It's so cool. I absolutely love them. Okay, I'll do the ox heart first. I'm going to move this plant out of the way. Underneath this panel, I have, on the other side of it, I have spinach, Swiss chard, and radishes planted. Now, last night when I was picking out my bok choy and taking it out, I actually picked a bunch of radishes. My French breakfast radishes were ready to be picked. So I picked a lot of those. I'm just going to put this tag on the outside over here. And I am planting a second ox heart. It's just going to be in a different spot because I could only fit 3 tomato plants over here. So I'm planting my ox heart in another spot by itself as well. And I'll put a little well in the center. And next is the natural black cherry. There's not a lot of space that I've given myself here, but it's enough that I can put a tomato plant over here. I won't be planting anything in front of it because I don't have a lot of space. Oh, again, I need my compost. Push this down. Pushed over my well on this other, my oxheart tomato. Okay. And I'll put my little tag right in the middle of these two since they're the same. And I'm just going to put this one on the very end. And I still have room over in this corner if I want to plant a flower or some herbs. I could even put a pepper plant in here in the corner and it would be totally fine. Some compost. Sometimes it's good to talk out loud. Keeps you organized somewhat. Okay. Get this baby in here. This is another really nice stocky plant. Tomato plant, really nice. I just did a garden tour last week, and I was showing all of my plants that I have planted a month ago, and so my next one, you'll be able to see all my tomatoes in this next one. Okay. Now I would be planting, I have 3 tomato plants on the top of this portable chicken coop. I would be planting tomatoes in this bed, but we're still waiting for those chickens to dig up where I had the fall and winter cover crop, like that one. We're just waiting. It takes the chickens about 3 or 4 days to be able to dig this up. So we're just waiting for the chickens to finish doing their job. And we should have it ready to be planted either by tomorrow or the next day. So those 3 are going in this bed. So this is all I'm planting for right now. I wanted to bring you along to show you how I would be planting my tomato plants and what varieties that I'm planting. So like I say, tomorrow or the next day I'll plant these last 3 tomatoes. I still have tomatoes that are going to be going in pots and in hanging baskets, and they will be going on my deck. So that Jamie did get me some more garden soil, so I'm happy about that, but I just have to pull out all my pots, get them organized, figure out which ones I'm going to be putting in which pots, tomatoes going in which pots, get that all organized, and then I'll be doing those as well. I still have tons of plants still to plant. I just wanted to bring you along to plant my tomato plants, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, throw in a like, and if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.